So you're just gonna sit there and watch while I explain this Japanese slang term? All right. Well, today's Japanese slang term is sario. Yes, that's right, as O at the end. And this is the Japanese slang term for a husband who is being cheated on, a cuckold. Yup, that's what it is. Look, not all words are fun and cute, but as long as they're not discriminatory or racist or anything like that, I will describe them. So let's learn about Japanese terms for people who are being cheated on. So the etymology of sario is pretty easy. The sare is just like to be done to, right? So like furin sareru, uwaki sareru, something like that. And then the ending there is the kanji for husband, although note that this is read as o, right? Sare o, not sare otto. If that's confusing, well, it confused me too, because this kanji is not normally read as o. You can use it as otto for like my husband, and it can be read as fu in a bunch of words, but it's not really read as o. So where does the o reading come from? Well, apparently o was an archaic terminology for a man or a husband in the past. Don't jump ahead though, as far as I'm aware, this has nothing to do with the etymology of words like otoko, etc. But while this o was normally written using this kanji, which is now used for osu, which is like a male non-human animal, it could also be written using this kanji. So that's where the reading comes from. It won't show up in most dictionaries of that kanji, but it is, I guess, allowed if we accept the entire use of kanji throughout the history of Japan as being allowed. Anyway, so sario has been used to refer to a cuckold husband since at least 2006. There are websites claiming that it was developed on 2chan, which is not surprising, although I can't evidence that. However, I will say that the oldest post on Twitter, which actually dates to 2009, does mention 2chan on it. If we switch sare to katakana though, which is quite common, I can find a hit going back to 2007. And it is from a 2chan style online forum. Additionally, if you check Google Trends, there is a small spike in 2006 with very continued interest since 2007. And that increase on Google Trends that we're seeing is not, as far as I know, because there's an increase of affairs in Japan, but rather because this term is used in, well, you know what kind of media this term is used in. So while I can't prove it, I guess I do believe the general claims of the internet here. And it's kind of impossible to find anything earlier because Google, even if you put sario in parentheses, will split it like this and give you hits that aren't real. So if you decide to check my data, don't be surprised if you find things going back before 2006, but unless I miss something, they're all fake hits. Now, the opposite of a sario, though, is shitao, or a husband who did the thing, and the thing again is having an affair. Once again, the earliest hits I can find for this are from 2009 for some reason. But if you want like a use in context that actually makes sense, let's look at this tweet here, where somebody notes how their shitao, or again, the husband who cheated, says they won't cheat anymore, but the person is having trouble believing them. And if you look at the name of the account, they have included sarezuma, not tsuma, in there as well, because yes, this entire phrasing is productive, and a tsarezuma is a woman who is being cheated on, a wife. As you've probably guessed by this point, a shitatsuma then, yes, I believe it's tsu apparently. Whether or not the tsu gets a dash dash depends on the links of the sounds. But yes, this is a cheating wife, as you can see in the post talking about how they found a cell phone they don't recognize in the room of their, quote, cheating wife. And if you aren't married, sare otoko and sare onna also exist online as terms for this. Now, as far as I'm aware, this sare plus a thing did start with all this in 2006, but it actually has been productive and spawned new terms that also kind of relate to the bedroom as well. For instance, if you are in a marriage where intercourse is not happening at all, and this is upsetting to one party but not so much to the other, a sexless marriage, well then if you are a husband in this case, you would say you are a resuo. Whereas if you are a wife in this situation, you would call yourself a resuzuma. So these terms obviously link right back to the sario, sarezuma, etc., but they come from the verb resuru, which comes from sekusuresu. So let's start actually here with resuru because this is a bit confusing. Resuru is used to mean when somebody puts somebody else in these sexless positions. Whereas in contrast, resurareru means that you are the party in the sexless relationship that is upset with the amount of intercourse that is having. We can see all of this together in this post here, where you can see it starts with resu ni natte. So there we see the noun form, as in when I became into a sexless marriage. And then you can see resurigawa right after, which here conjugates the verb resuru and creates a very common construction, which is the party in the relationship which is refusing intercourse. As it goes on, we then see resurare no watashi, which is me who is being in a sexless relationship, with the verb kind of noun so that it can modify the noun I. And if you want a bit of bonus slang there, shikotishu, which is a variant or I guess another version of Odan tissue, refers to a tissue that is used to clean up usually a man's masturbatory act. This is a fun, not awkward video. I'm enjoying this video. I'm glad that this word exists and that I can talk about it. Boy howdy, are there just a bunch of fun words on the internet. Now, finding the start date for any of these terms is a bit tricky because resuru and resurareru can be used in a completely fine way that I wish this video was about, which means to respond, right? So when this person says they resurued to a post 40 minutes earlier, that has nothing to do with the bedroom, they just responded. And here, they note being resurareru'd on Twitter, which does not mean that Twitter is not having sex with them, but rather that they are being responded to. And the word before that, faboru, in the passive faboraru, comes from favorite and means to get a like, right? An ine. Not, though, as you may think, to have your post like saved or bookmarked. So you might think, oh my gosh, Wes, did you have to go through just year after year of these posts until you found one that related to a bedroom? And the answer is no, because fortunately for me, the terms resuo and resutsuma also exist. And so I was just able to search for those. And the first I could find was in 2010, and then using this as a launchpad, I started looking for resuru and resurareru around 2010, and the first use that was clear in context to what we're talking about also appeared in 2010. So it seems like the sarezuma, sario, etc. appeared around 2006, and then within 4 years developed into these new forms. And again, to go through the grammar to make it clear, because this is a bit confusing, if you say resu ni naru, as in become resu, that means that you are not having intercourse despite that you want to. However, the verb resuru and all things that come from conjugations of that refer to the person who is not engaging in intercourse, while resurareru refer to the person who is trying to have intercourse in the relationship and is not being successful. And then finally, the last thing I guess I should do is answer the question of when did actually the word sekusuresu appear in Japanese? And the answer is actually quite a while ago. Google Trends shows hits going back to 2004, which is the oldest it has any data from, so I had to go down to Google Books. But the problem there is, of course, they have a lot of false hits. Indeed, it showed some hits from before 1950, but I was able to confirm that these aren't real. But by 1960, there's like a page of hits. By 1970, there's 3 pages of hits, which makes me think that at least one of them is real. But I will say it took until 1990 until I could find a hit that also allowed me to search the book and find the text in context. Still, all in all, I feel pretty comfortable saying that this term has existed in Japanese to some extent since post-war. And that's that. That's the video that I did. And let's never talk about it ever again.